Welcome to segment number one. Definitely hope that you have your Bible. Pull it out and let's get ready to get into the lesson for today. Hi, and I hope that you're feeling well today, and thank you for joining us for another segment of segment number one. That's the name of this program, segment number one. SN1, segment number one. Okay, and this is show number 4. How do you feel? And I'm just thankful that you decided you'd like to join me today and get into the word of the Lord. To study it for yourselves, to show ourselves to be workmen who needeth not be ashamed, but who can rightly divide the word of truth. And that's the word of the Lord, coming from his holy Bible, not creating our own word of truth, but taking it directly out of his Bible. Precept for precept, line for line. And that's what he says, to not change or diminish a word. Precept by precept, line upon line. So we're going to go into the book of Daniel. I hope you have your Bible. And we're going to go into Daniel chapter 1. Now, Daniel is preceded by Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and then Daniel. And it's in the Old Testament, beginning with Daniel chapter 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. That means he took it by force. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. So Nebuchadnezzar is a king, and he's a king over the Babylonians. And he has gone in and besieged Jerusalem, and he's taken it by force. And Jehoiakim was the king at that time. And Jehoiakim was one of the last kings of the children of Israel. We turn into the book of 2 Chronicles 36. And it says, Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in his father's stead in Jerusalem. So he was made king over the children of Judah. And his name was Jehoahaz. Now, the Egyptians come in and they take Jerusalem. And in taking Jerusalem, the king or Pharaoh of Egypt takes with him to Egypt Jehoahaz. And he puts in place of Jehoahaz his brother, another son of Josiah. And his name was Eliakim. But the king of Egypt, or Pharaoh, changed the name of Eliakim to Jehoiakim. And so 2 sons of Josiah. Now, Josiah was the last good king of the children of Judah. Then comes his evil sons. And after his evil sons, they're now taken all into captivity. Except, of course, there is a remnant. A remnant is left. And God has always promised to leave a remnant anywhere, and then he's going to come back and build it back up. And so a remnant was left. But the leadership and many of the people were taken into captivity. And before the Babylonians came the Egyptians, and of course you have other people that came in, and because they were always being besieged, and the children of Israel were always being besieged because they failed to do what God told them to do. They failed to follow his rules, his judgments, his precepts, and his Ten Commandments, like the 10 Commandments, not to covet, to have one God and to honor that God and that God only, to worship him and him only, to honor thy mother and father, and to do all the things that he told us to do in the 10 Commandments, not to commit murder, not to lie, all of those things. And so they failed to do that. And he promised them certain things that if they did those things, if they did what he asked them to do and followed his judgments, he would provide for them and protect them and keep them and make them a mighty nation among all nations, that people would look up to them and revel and proclaim them to be a mighty nation. But they would not do what God told them to do. And so because they failed to do that, they went into captivity, and they were besieged time and time again by different nations coming in and overpowering them and taking them off into slavery, back into captivity in various nations. And in the end, it was the Babylonians, and they're called Chaldeans, okay? And so in Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar is the king, and he comes in and he takes them and brings them into Babylonian. And in taking them, he also removes with them certain items from the house of God, items of value, gold, silver, everything of any value is removed. The brass, everything is removed. And he brings these items back to Babylon, and he places them in the house of his God. And when you get deeper into the story, he demands that the children of Israel worship his golden idol that he has built. And they submit themselves to him. And then as you get further into these verses, down into 3, and the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge, and in understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So they're going to convert them into speaking their language, worshiping their God, and following their rules, their precepts, and their concepts, and doing what the Chaldeans or the Babylonians want them to do. And they want them to come into submission. And when people are trying to get you under submission, the first thing they try to do is they want to, they call that it's kind of like detoxing you from what you already know and bringing you into submission. They get you to forget and put aside everything that you were taught previously, so that you come into ranks with them and you follow what they want you to do, and say what they want you to say, and speak as they want you to speak, and become as they are. And so this is what Nebuchadnezzar, he's reforming them, and they're becoming like them and worshiping his idol God. And so the Israelites, because they were disobedient, because they failed to follow God, because they failed to do what God asked them to do, they are made captives once again, and they're brought into submission, and they're now back in bondage because the God that created them, they no longer wanted to listen to him. They no longer wanted to follow him. They wanted to be as the other nations were that were around them when he brought them into the land of milk and honey, into the land of the Canaanites that he gave to them, the land that he gave them, that he promised them, the land of milk and honey. But they were disobedient. Do not be disobedient. Do not be a hard-headed child. Come into submission and give your life unto the Lord. There is only one God, and that is the God that created heaven and earth. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is God, and there is none like him. And there is no one or anything that can do anything for you that God can't supersede and do much more and greater. He is God. He is awesome. He is magnificent. He is powerful, and there is none like him. We welcome you and thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you the next time on segment number 1. God bless you, and study your Bible. Well, thank you for joining us once again for segment number 1. And be sure to pull out your Bible and get deeper into the Word of the Lord. Study the scriptures that we're going through, okay? And read it for yourself. Get to know the Word of the Lord for yourself. And this show has been produced by Bernadine Smith for B. Smith Media 101.